you'll be interacting with today. We've got Better Global Alliance, we've got Seedballs Kenya, we've got Safaricom, and we've got KTDA, plus the University of Nairobi is also supporting with a presentation today, plus the Agrochemical Association of Kenya. So it's quite a big array of private sector partners. We hoped you could have more joining us on this webinar, but it's very short for 90 minutes. So we'll have more participate in the bigger conference. So the objectives of the webinar today, kindly, Winnie, go to the next presentation. The goal is to showcase the entrepreneurial opportunities for landscape restoration and what is needed to enhance its potential. We've got 4 objectives we are looking at. The first is to showcase opportunities to support landscape restoration through corporate share and value. Then we are hoping to recruit the private sector partners into climate action and climate finance by showing what is possible and sharing some of the lessons that our partners have learned. We also wish to create a platform for private sector actors to network and to interact with actors who can provide advisory on how to get involved or invest in landscape restoration. Sometimes the private sector is looking at who to work with, and the efficiency and the effectiveness that the private sector wants to work with sometimes is different from how NGO and government works, and therefore they lack a way to interact and to link with advisory roles. And so we hope to plug in that gap through this webinar and the oncoming conference. At the same time, we also appreciate that there are quite some private sector partners and approaches that have got a bit of weaknesses in the way they do things, which leads to further degradation. And so we would like to identify opportunities for greening those approaches so that we can also highlight bottlenecks and challenges to restoration-linked businesses. And then we can, all of us, turn towards restoration. So we'll be having 3 sections of this webinar today. The first session is going to have 3 presenters. We've got Tendi, we've got Tommaso, and we've got Jan. These are private sector partners that are already engaged in various approaches in restoration. And so they will be taking us through the first session where they tell us some of their experiences. So the first presenter is the CEO of Seedballs Kenya, Mr. Tendi Kinyanjui. He'll be talking to us about some of the enterprise solutions that exist for the private sector in landscape restoration and showcasing some of the innovations that he has developed together with his company. Tendi, over to you. You're muted, Tendi. Tendi, you're muted.
There we go. Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Yeah, I hope everyone's well, and thanks very much for having us on this webinar today. I'm sure, as of course everyone's familiar with, and we're going to learn more about today, there are multiple private sector solutions to landscape restoration. The people that we feel especially need to play as large a role as possible is, of course, the private sector. When one looks at these concepts like natural capital accounting, industries being able to use water for maybe not the true cost of what the environmental impacts are, many of those different small sides of the private sector need to be paid back into the environment in sorts. So of course, today, though, I'm going to be presenting about our recent innovation and program, the Seedballs Kenya, our direct seeding undertaking that we've been doing for the last 3 years around the country. The one side of this that really brings big private sector engagement, private, public, and non-governmental, is the aspect of seed collection. And at the moment, when we look at the restoration goals of Kenya, not only just trees alone, but also pastures and rangelands, the need for indigenous, native, high-quality seed has never been greater, and the supply is still not what it could be. And I think this opens the door for multiple economic activities from different levels of community engagement, especially when you look at how groups now like the Cuckoo Trust, the Ray Trust in Baringo, Base Titanium has done seed collection, Northern Rangelands. So there's people who are beginning to see, especially in grasslands, how engaging and interesting a job seed collection and seed provision can become, because not only does it help protect local biodiversity, but it brings back economic opportunities to those same people who are living in those particular areas. So to go on to our simple sort of method that we've come up with of mimicking natural regeneration using direct seeding, Seed Balls Kenya came about because our main business is energy saving cook stoves through Cookswell Jikos. We realized one hand the biomass use in Kenya with increasing urbanization, population pressure, land use change, stoves were only part of the entire cycle. Using improved cook stoves is very good, but also how do you get that charcoal and firewood? So we got into doing tree planting in the early 2000s with our company and the Carnivore. Of course, they use a lot of charcoal for nyama choma, so they were very supportive. And what that led us to is looking at how do we lower the cost of doing dry land tree planting, which is specifically where most of the hardwood acacia charcoal comes from that services Nairobi and all of the businesses, hotels, households here. So I think, Winnie, if you could go to the second slide. I don't know, I hope people are familiar with the seed ball concept. Basically, it's very simple. It's coating indigenous tree seeds with waste charcoal dust that we buy from the markets, and then working with different levels of engagement from all sorts of partners to get the right type of seed, the right species to the right parts of the country. So engaging with groups, even NGOs like World Vision on this particular slide, and this local community who is doing fodder and fuel production for their zero grazing and pasture improvement program in Kitui. If you could go to the next slide, please, Winnie. To larger private sector enterprises like Base Titanium, who had bought grass seeds and some forage seeds for land reclamation on some of their old mining sites in Kwale. We've had a lot of success with private landholders, especially Nairobi-based people who might have land up country and have wanted to find a lower cost way of planting indigenous trees along, especially their fence lines and in the open areas. If you could go to the next slide, Winnie. And then all the way up to large corporates, like we couldn't take our hats off enough for Diamond Trust Bank, who did the first 1 million seed ball drop in a charcoal making area in Narok. And so much of this is about partnership. So because Diamond Trust Bank was willing to help pay for all of this, we were able to work with the Mara Elephant Project, who's an NGO that does human wildlife conflict in Narok, to reseed with some local community areas where through land adjudication, people now are wanting to repair what damage may have been done on communally owned land, to reseed with the same types of trees that were cut for charcoal, seed balls of those same types. And you can see the simple before and after photo there of some of the seeds coming up in the kilns. Targeting the charcoal making areas has been a very high priority on our list, especially as a Jiko making company. You know, we make stoves that use charcoal, so we need to help replant that. And also seeing what a huge demand and what a huge part the energy mix biomass plays even in our modernizing economy. And as diets change and people become more city dwellers, you know, every weekend, things like nyama choma is never going to go away, even when everyone has connection to electricity, I think, at least in my lifetime, probably. So for us, making those linkages between not only the trees to produce the charcoal, but the dry land grasses to help increase, you know, livestock health, all of that's very key. At the very bottom, you can see we do maps where we follow up using Google Maps around the country, different places people have been seeding and how that works. And then if you could go to the last slide, I believe it's the last slide. Yes. So then how would you or your company like to get involved? You can either, of course, contact us to get seed balls and we can help you with species advice for the areas you want to grow them in. Or we work with a number of different partners around the country where you can actually buy them seed balls to distribute on your behalf. And they can send back small WhatsApp videos, emails, GPS points on where they planted those trees. One of the biggest challenges at the moment, I'd have to say, for our entire undertaking and this program is it's been an incredible reception for tree planting and tree growing and people understanding the importance of indigenous trees in different parts of Kenya. But the pasture side of it, using indigenous grasses to grow and replenish the biodiversity in especially overgrazed areas where perhaps they have actually looked after the trees, that awareness is still not as profound, I think, among people who eat byproducts of pasture, milk and meat. So the coming year, we're hoping to really put a little bit more onus on helping educate more people to the importance of the entire ecosystem, that, you know, trees and the understory grasses when it comes to rangeland restoration, and expanding our species choice for pasture mixes. So we'd like to also reach out to any of you that work in this sector, if you have more ideas on that for not only trees, but also the shrubs, the grasses, the wildflowers, and so forth. Please do get in touch, and we'd love to learn more. And yeah, we'll field questions, I think, after the presentation. And thanks very much, ICRAF, for having us present today. Do we do questions right now, George, or?
Thank you very much, Teddy, for your presentation. I think Jonathan is having some issues with his connection. Okay, you are back, Jonathan. Please go ahead. Jonathan? Okay, Winnie, can we go next to the next presentation? Winnie, can we go to the next presentation as we wait for Jonathan to get back online?
Hello.
Hello, Jonathan.
Can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I got disconnected at some point.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Teddy, for saving us a few minutes, 1 or 2. The next presentation will be from Jan van der Bel from Better Grow Forestry. Just as Jan comes on, I'd like to say that you can put in your comments in the your questions, the Q&A. We'll address them shortly after the presentation. The rest of the chat you can put in the chat box. So Jan, kindly come on in. Winnie, I can't see the presentation.
Jonathan, it's actually Tommaso.
Sorry, Tommaso. Sorry, yes. I have got lost a bit. Tommaso, kindly go ahead.
Yeah, I hope you can see me and hear me okay. And I hope the connection will remain stable. I'm speaking from our Isiolo office, and at times this connection is not the best. So whenever you start the slide, I can also start the presentation. Okay, so Jonathan forgot to mention my company earlier, so let me confirm who I am and the company. So my name is Tommaso Menini. I'm the founder and managing director for African Agency for Arid Resources. The name is quite self-explanatory. We have invested in arid land commodities, and as of late, we have also started transforming these commodities, and we are the only company, at least in the region, that follows the entire value chain and controls it from the ground, in this case trees, when it comes to gum arabic or resins such as frankincense and myrrh, all the way to the shelf. We now have a fully fledged line of retail products, mostly essential oils, shea butter, carrier oils, most of these coming from areas that we can call arid and semi-arid. Now, this initiative called Kavadi was actually copyrighted in 2018, and it's the base of our approach towards working arid lands. Yep. We can go to the next one. So just a quick introduction of arid and semi-arid lands. Most of us know what they are, but we don't usually grasp the size of this area, because most of Kenya, the vast majority of Kenya, in fact, is considered arid and semi-arid. We work specifically in the arid ones, which it's mostly Samburu, Marsabit, Wajir, Isiolo. We did Turkana, but not there anymore. And we are based in Isiolo and Nairobi. Yeah? Isiolo is our office for all field operations. So on top of that, dryness, let's call it, or poor rainfall, we also have very striking poverty levels, which are more than double of the national index. We work in this context. We have decided to invest in resources from arid and semi-arid lands, which we believe can also elevate the living conditions of pastoralist communities, which is, of course, who we work with. Yeah, could go next. Now, this is something, some of the things that we do. These are the raw material, yeah? So this is just to show what they look when they are raw before they're processed. Of course, we have gum arabic. We have also raw resins, which is how we started trading. So all of these gum and resins are trees exudates. So they ooze out of trees. There are tree products. There is no extraction. There is not just tapping out of the tree, and is entirely sustainable. So our first effort is to advocate for conservation, of course, and sustainability. The trees are tapped. They're not over-injured, like it happened, for instance, in Somalia, when the demands for frankincense has put now on a brink of a incredible fast decline the Boswellia species there. We do it sustainably. Also, we don't have that much demand yet. So we work mostly with frankincense trees, gum arabic trees, myrrh trees, which, as you can see, are Acacia commiferas and Boswellias. But now we have truly invested on aloe. Aloe is our choice for land regeneration, although we would like to have intercropping and a higher biodiversity of arid land species by intercropping, what's possible, trees of interest and aloe. Aloe is still a plant that can grow nearly anywhere, including rocky and sandy terrains. So it goes really well in degraded lands. So lands that are not used for anything at all, including pasture, of course, can be used to plant aloe. We have started our own nursery thanks to the help of a fund called Kenya Catalytic Jobs Fund, which gave us a grant to start nurseries and the propagation of Aloe secundiflora with management and ownership completely on the communities. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Winnie? Winnie?
Just a moment. It's I'm trying to go next, but it's stuck.
I'm pretty sure I know what the next slide is about, which is just our model. I can start, and then I'm sure it will come and show. We are a central force in two value chains, and this, I mean, now it's two, but there will be more. Now, these two value chains are, of course, gum resin and aloe. Yeah, we work. That's the one. We work with collectors groups for gum resins, and we work with farmers for aloe products. So what we do, and I would like to mention also our sister company, Laikipia Permaculture Center, is to propagate aloe with communities, mostly women's group, that in turn collect and harvest the aloe sustainably, even if it's propagated. Right now, aloe is protected by CITES, so you cannot harvest wild aloe. So what we do is we collect this aloe. We actually also capacitate people to do their own formulation. We don't do the formulation, we train the women's group to do the formulation, and we receive the finished product. That way, we are not creating labor, we are creating enterprises, which is what we always wanted to do. Similarly, for gamma raising collection, we want and we capacitate and train and equip collectors group, usually organizing cooperative association, and they act as an enterprise, not as single labor. We have a domestic market. We are pushing to do bulk export, and community work is how we do this. It's a bottom to top approach, and it starts grassroots. Next slide, please. Okay, I don't know what's wrong with my presentation. Sorry, but we are now looking at the next slide. I'm pretty sure is a look at how the supply chain works, which is again what we have proposed to the KCGF fund. There were 850 applications, and we were one of the 5 winners. What we did, if I may also mention how I got to this, is I used the recommendation that I had built for a client, as I am also a consultant on dry chain analysis. This client is FAO. FAO is doing a lot of great work on bioenterprises development, which is how they consulted myself. And the recommendation that I've given them in 2019 became the project proposal in 2020. This project proposal was then funded by the British government through the KCGF. Now, this is what we want to do. Nurseries, farms, collection techniques, grading techniques, storaging facilities. We want to make sure that the whole value chain is now formalized, yeah? And ALO is our land regeneration tools. Again, sorry, this is mostly a presentation that was built on job creation rather than land regeneration, but land regeneration was always our focus. And the last slide can confirm that. We mostly built an action talking about job creation, but what we are doing is regenerate 100 acres of land in Samburu and Isiolo to start with. The next slide can show you the next, so this one is the last slide. This is where we want to go next. We start with Isiolo and Samburu. We will go back to Turkana, and also we want to look at Garissa. We can do this in any arid lands. The great things about aloe farming is that it's extremely scalable. So the graded lands can use to plant Aloe secundiflora, which is the biggest indigenous species of aloe, and it can in turn create livelihood, which is how we saw this. Let's regenerate land that is unused and considered degraded. Let's put a drought-resistant plant like aloe, and we, as Agar Limited, we create a commercial exit strategy, which is market. And market linkages is what we always did from the very beginning of the company. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tommaso, and apologies for not introducing you well at the beginning. I had completely lost network. I was just hanging. So sorry about that, but thank you for a very wonderful presentation. We're going to have the third one now from Jan, who had introduced as from Better Group Forestry. And then we'll be able to have a quick break for questions. I can see quite a number of them are coming through the chat. Jan, kindly.
Thank you, Jonathan. Happy to be in the conference. So I can start commenting when my slides appear. Right. I'm working for Better Globe Forestry. and I will talk about the challenges, the solutions, and the opportunities of private sector engagement in landscape restoration. Next slide, please. Okay. As a company, we are an afforestation company, and we work in two different circumstances. One is the traditional plantations where we plant in blocks, and the one of interest here is agroforestry, where we work with farmers. We started this in 2017, and we have been doing landscape restoration based on very simple practices: soil and water conservation, planting of Melia volkensi. You can also plant other tree species that are potentially lucrative. A lot of our efforts go into farmer organization and training. You can see a very common picture, a very common image of landscapes in the islands that are absolutely degraded, but that are possible to restore. Now, what is the challenges that you face when you go there? You must have a financial incentive for the farmers, as well as a decent return for the investor. Now, the solution for that one, please. You have to find the right species and product. In our case, this was a timber tree called Melia volkensi that is indigenous to Kenyan drylands. Then another challenge is when you're planting trees, that this is by definition a long-term investment, and the returns also are coming after many years. That is definitely a problem for a lot of people. In the case of Melia volkensi, the expected time for the rotation, that is when you can cut the trees, that is 15 to 20 years. Another challenge in drylands is that people have not really taken up tree planting. Trees grow, trees don't grow. It is something that is left to God. It is not like in the Kenyan highlands where people really have been planting trees, actively planting trees, grevillea, eucalyptus, other species. And this lack of tree planting culture can only be overcome by training, by various forms of training, showing best practices, showing model farmers. And in short, it's training, training, and more training. Another challenge is the lack of good quality seedlings. The species that we had selected, Melia volkensi, we, for the moment, have been limiting ourselves to produce them ourselves in our own nursery. Although we have realized of late that landscape restoration is not only limited to what you can see on the surface of the land, but the restoration only have to take care of what was below the surface, like mycorrhiza, the different fungi that actually help trees and other plant species to grow. And when you still look at that picture, you understand that the situation above ground is very negatively influencing the situation also below ground. So now we are working on mycorrhiza together with National Museums of Kenya to have an inoculum that we can use in our nurseries to produce seedlings with a stronger root system. The next challenge is what I call the Dependency Syndrome. What do I mean by that? It is that a lot of these areas, like in the Eastern Province, have been famine areas where people periodically don't produce enough for food, and there is food insecurity, and then the government steps in and Joe's step in. And this has led to a culture of receiving. You want to organize a meeting for farmers. Farmers, they then, instead of actively coming to a meeting and contributing, they start by asking for handouts because they're used to that. And this is something that only slowly goes away. And the last challenge that I have put there is the dry climate, the ignorance on tree management, and free roaming goats. And this all contributes to sizable seedling mortality. The solution to that one is promoting capture of rainwater through soil and water conservation in Swahili Faniacini. And that is then solutions and challenges. However, opportunities. In the dry lands, opportunities are really there. One, farmers are many. There is literally hundreds of thousands of farmers, and land is plenty. Here I want to go into a small detail, which is that in our experience, farmers should have at least 2 acres of land where you're willing to plant trees, and this normally is available. The other opportunity then is that this planting of trees, and you can see some examples in the photos there, is done in a wide spacing, and this allows for intercropping with food crops. You see a lady in the middle, you see on the right-hand side, you see a man standing there close to a tree. These trees are 2.5 years old, and these people are managing them, they are pruning them, and they expect to reap some good income from the sale of their trees within some 15 years. And as you can also see, there is food crops growing there. This does not look like a field of maize or something similar that you can find in areas like Kitale, but in these areas, mean
2 minutes, Jan. 2 minutes.
Mean annual rainfall is low. We talk about 400, 500, and 600 millimeter. This is already a good result. Next slide, please. What we do, we organize farmers in groups, and you see something that Tommaso Manini can appreciate. This is the growing of Acacia Senegal in eastern Kitui, where you can see the lady touching some gum arabic that comes out of this Acacia Senegal. We do training, and importantly, we also have taken up financial matters. We are stimulating microcredit and own savings through table banking. Next slide. Results so far, we have some 6,800 farmers under contract. We have organized them in groups. You can see they're handing out a certificate for a farmer group. So far, we have under soil and water conservation 2,500 farms. This translates into 2,000 hectares, which now have this system of Faniacini. We have been establishing some financial service associations, and in some areas, people really have taken up tree planting, and there is some nascent tree planting and management culture. And then as the last but not least benefit, there is increased food security and poverty alleviation from growing crops in those farms. Next slide. So that was a slide that I took in the beginning of the year in Eastern Mwengi. This would not have been possible before this intervention started. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jan, so much for a very enlightening presentation. So we will take 3 questions. Zanel is going to host that. We kindly request that you put in all your questions on the Q&A. And kindly feel free to vote for the questions that you would like to be answered. So after these 3 questions, we'll be able to have another session of 5 to 10 minutes of questions after the next session. So keep on voting for the questions so that Zanel can support by selecting the ones that have been voted by most people. Otherwise, the others are being answered on the chat. Zanel, kindly.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. So we have quite a number of questions, and it's very good to see that people are interested in learning and in knowing what our partners are doing. So there are a few questions for Teddy, but I'll just select a few. Teddy, there's a question from Vela Kwamboka. So she wants to find out if is the reseeding exercise in dryland areas throughout the year, or is it pegged to the rainy seasons? Can I just go through them quickly and then you'll be able to answer? And then we have another one. Teddy, which indigenous trees do you distribute? I hope you are taking note, Teddy. And then a final one for you, Teddy. Are your seed balls made from charcoal? So I'll just give you some minutes to answer those questions. And then I can move on to 3 questions for Tommaso.
Teddy? Hi, Teddy.
Jonathan, maybe you can just move on to Tommaso's questions.
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. Tommaso, we have a question from Jane Nimpamia. She wants to find out what the exact products that you make. What are they? Are they pharmaceuticals? Are they perfumes or food preservatives, etc.? And where exactly do you sell them? And then I have another one, just quickly, Tommaso. Are you collecting raw materials from the wild or from planted alus? And then there's one final one, which is asking, which the participant is asking, which is James. Farmers in Marigat have not only been growing alu, but a factory was established through the support of FAO. The activities seem to have been abandoned. Are you aware of this project? Is there something that your company is doing? I hope you've gotten all the questions. I can repeat them in case you have not. Thank you, Tommaso.
Thank you so much. I got the first 2. I wouldn't mind to hear again about the aloe farm that has been empowered by FAO, if you don't mind. But for the first 2, the products that we do, I wanted to show you. We are just launching in the market right now. Yeah, this is what they look like. These are 200 ml. Reusable aluminum bottles. That's why we picked them. We want to refill them because, of course, it's the environmentally friendly option. This is 10% aloe. The aloe is usually used as a powder because the gel is incredibly unstable and will go off quite soon. So what L'Equipe Permaculture Center did, again, I call it sister company for a reason. We are doing this together because the women's group are under an umbrella association, which they have been empowering for days, yeah? So for years, sorry. So we do conditioner, we do shampoo, shower gel, liquid soap, and body lotion. What are these? Room amenities. So these we are trying to push over the hospitality sector, which unfortunately in the last year has been nearly killed by COVID, but it's slowly coming back up. But these are also going to be retailed from next month. So that's the aloe product. Now, what we've been doing, it's mostly essential oil. That's what we are very strong now domestically. We have a number of white label clients, which means people putting their own brand, and we do bulk sales as well. So the essential oil of frankincense and myrrh, mostly frankincense, is a very strong selling product. We are also pushing for bulk sales in export. This is our retail line. As for the second question, Zanele, if you could repeat the second.
Are you collecting raw materials from the wild?
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I think why secundiflora. So yes, frankincense and myrrh, they're not propagated domestically. Actually, the gentleman that just spoke, Jan, is one of the few that had done a pilot plantation. Which I visited some years back, and that was, if I'm not mistaken, or based on my knowledge, one of the very few propagation of Gamma arabic. Also, his farmers have done that. So it's in Kitui, not where we work. What we do is wild collection, which of course needs to be sustainable. Gamma resins are not protected. Right now there is no licensing, although we have been working, and the Gamma Resin Association has finally come up with a draft that was preliminarily approved by the CS of Agriculture. So now we are going to work with more regulations. There will be a license, there will be more formalization of this sector. Yeah. When it comes to aloe, no, it's not widely collected. It's protected. Even if the problem with CITES is that they protect usually a whole species without looking at subspecies. Aloe secundiflora, it's not threatened at all. It's not endangered. 65% of all aloe species in Kenya, it's secundiflora. That's why we picked that one. Turcanensis was a second option, but we didn't have the same fields that we could look at as success stories in Laikipia. So why doing something that we haven't seen doing well when we can start something that has been doing well for the last few years? That's why we picked aloe secundiflora. And the third one, the third question, Zanelek, if you could also repeat that for me, please.
Thank you very much, Tommaso. And there are more questions for you. Please kindly just be answering on the chat and then the Q&A. I have one question for Teddy. I hope you're back, Teddy. We'll be able to take one. Is the reseeding exercise in dryland areas done throughout the year, or is it pegged to the rainy seasons? Teddy, please, if you're available, kindly answer.
I think, Teddy, I'm trying to answer quite of the questions on the chat. So let's just get one for Jan, because we are running out of time.
Yes, Jan, just a comment for you. Can we include value addition and marketing to improve farmers' earnings? So I think that is just a comment for you to consider in your work. Thank you very much, Jonathan.
Thank you, Zanel. Thank you also, Tommaso, for very elaborate answers to the questions. So that session was companies that are directly involved in restoration. The next session now is about companies that are doing other business. They are quite known companies in the private sector in this country, but they have invested a lot in terms of land restoration in what we are calling the corporate shared value. So we'll have a presentation from Michael Koech from Safaricom, and from KTDA, we have George Oselu to tell us some of the things that they are doing related to land restoration. So at this point, I will welcome Michael. Michael, kindly go on for the next 5 minutes.
Thank you, Jonathan, for the opportunity. I don't know whether you are hearing me correct, perfectly.
Very well, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so thanks everyone. I was given this topic to talk about the role of private sector in corporate social investment in landscape restoration. So if you can move to the next slide. So I know for businesses, one of the key questions that they would normally ask themselves is whether there's a business case. And I think from the three presentations that we've that have been made, I think it's true. There's a business case for this. We know nature provides us with all sorts of resources that we require, whether it's food, whether it's fiber, whether it's the minerals, building materials, etc., etc. So without nature, I think businesses cannot prosper. There are also environmental risks associated with nature destruction. I think it's estimated that about 10%, out of land degradation, we can actually lose about 10% of annual global gross GDP, and I think that's a huge loss actually if we destroy nature. There are also huge opportunities around cost savings when nature is conserved, increases in efficiency, also market shares, and also a more reliable supply of raw materials that can be used. And next slide. So for any organization, just in brief, if you want to get involved in land restoration, I think one of there could be four steps actually. So first is to assess yourself. Why you do what you would call material assessment, looking at your organization. What are you good at? What can go wrong if something is not done on nature? Then make commitments. Starting with simple commitments, like currently the Ministry of Environment has a program for adopting a forest. So maybe one key commitment could be, can I adopt a forest, or even restore, or do what the previous presenters have talked about. Then start acting, start slowly, and then be also a big advocate for this. I know there are a lot of policy commitments that the government can make to actually make forestry or restoration to be a business venture. Next. And next, let me skip that. Okay, so I would most of the time I want to give an example of what we've done as an organization on this front. So last year we made, as Safaricom, we made a commitment to plant 5 million trees in 5 years for carbon offsetting. As an organization, we've integrated sustainable development goals, and one of the key things that we are focusing on is around climate, and we do a lot in terms of investment on infrastructure and other things, but we know that nature also has a huge potential for carbon sequestration, and that's why we got involved in this program of planting trees. 5 million trees could do about 5,000 hectares. So if you were to put it in perspective, I think Karura forest is about 1,000 hectares, so it's about 5 times, the size of Karura, which I think is quite substantial. So we are not only planting but ensuring that they grow. So we are in a site for at least a minimum of 5 years. We are collaborating with Kenya Forest Service for indigenous forest. We are planting in their land, in gazetted forest, that is. They give us technical support, security, as well as advice in terms of which species are suitable for the sites where we are in across the country. We work also with communities for empowerment. So they do seedlings, labor and maintenance for the seeds that have been planted, as well as scouting and security. And out of this, they actually derive their livelihoods as well, because of the payments that are made, out of what they provide, or the services that they provide. So far, we've in the last 1 year, we've done about close to 800,000 seedlings for this particular project. 800,000, which is about 800 hectares of land. So the picture that you're seeing there is one of the sites in South Marmanet. When we visited, of course, it was a dry season. So it's a gazetted forest, but you can see there is very minimal number of trees, on that site, and that's where restoration is happening. Next slide. So the next slide. So how are we doing it? If you look at the site that we've just shown in the previous picture, 1 year ago, the picture on your left is the seedlings. Sorry, the picture on your left in the previous slide are the seedlings that we've done, about a year old now, and on the right is where the work is going on. On this slide, this is also a second site in Kieni Forest in Kiambu. Aerial picture, and you can see the trees that were planted about 9 to 12 months ago. Really doing well. This is a site which has what they call telis or pelis, where agriculture is also going on. So there's crops intercropped within the forest, and the farmers also take care of the trees. What Teddy presented, I think, is a huge opportunity for us. The use of seedlings, the use of seed balls, which I think we are going to try out this year, because it will accelerate our program, I think, and also reduce the cost of purchasing of seedlings. So I think we'll be considering doing a mix and mix of the two and see how it goes. In terms of way forward, we are looking at mangroves in the coast as our next frontier. We are also exploring digital solutions to monitor the growth and also link them to the carbon verification and the carbon market. And so we have a number of partners who are supporting us on that and see how to move it forward at scale. If you can go to the last slide, I believe. So that's what we do as Safaricom as a business, but also because I was asked to talk about CSI. We also have our foundations, the Safaricom Foundation and M-Pesa Foundation. We've done some work in the past with in a number of regions. In Maweburu, we did a fence, a 43-kilometer electric fence. And out of this project, of course, there's a lot of regeneration that has happened in the protected area. We also have other empowerment, economic empowerment, especially on beekeeping, where we donated beehives to the Okiek community living around there. And more importantly as well is the protection of an endangered bongo antelope in that same area. In Nairobi, through the Nairobi Green Line, we've also done some work with them on indigenous seedlings. And more recently, we had a donation to the Riteti Elephant Sanctuary to help them protect abandoned elephant calves, as well as a donation to KWSCS to protect the only, I'm told, 15 remaining rowan antelopes that live in Ruma National Park in Homa Bay. So quite a number of things that organizations and private sector can actually help in conservation and that makes the long-term sustainability of these initiatives. So with that, thank you very much. Back to you, Jonathan.
Thank you so much, Michael. Very interesting work. So I'm sorry I have to keep on stopping you, but it's great work that Safaricom is doing. There are comments that you can be looking at in the Q&A that you can also be responding to Michael. Quite a number of them coming through. And then the next presenter is from Kenya Tea Development Agency, George Oselu. Kindly take it away. George.
Saying many thanks, Jonathan, for giving us this opportunity, at least to showcase what we are doing for our organization. My name is George Oselo. I work with KTDA as the forest manager. Next slide, please. It is quite important for us to be able to understand the role that is played by the tea in the economy of this country. For those that are in the know, we know very well that 60% of our teas comes from the small growers, small sector, and that's where KTDA manages. So I think next slide, the role of the tea cannot really be overemphasized, and we need to restore because we require biomass to cure our tea, and that puts KTDA not tree planting not as a corporate social responsibility, but corporate social investment, because we put efforts to ensure that whatever we do today has a ripple effect, so then the farmers are happy. So other than that, we have our own wing called KTDA Foundation that spearheads the corporate social investment across the KTDA group. KTDA group means we have 8 subsidiaries, and the KTDA Foundation leads the corporate social investment. The key objective of the foundation is to initiate intervention that improve the welfare of the smallholders. We are talking about over 650,000 farmers who are our shareholders. The vision of this of our foundation is to have enabled and progressive smallholder tea farmers, and the mission is to empower the smallholder farmers and their communities to economically and socially through sustainable programs and partnership. Next, please. How then do we do this? We have what we call strategic objectives, then specific objectives, and perhaps the key activities. So I'll just rush through because of time. Our major strategic objective in this is to promote climate change mitigation, adaptation, and resilience among smallholder tea farmers for sustainable tea production. We know we require better environment for better tea. How is this done? We need to promote climate adaptation mechanism among us, the smallholder tea farmers, by creating awareness and educational campaigns and sustainability programs. We are also looking at sustainable management of forest within the community setups where our factories are. We have about 70 factories today, and they are spread across 16 tea growing counties in Kenya. We also do sustainable efficient management of soil and water conservation because we require this as well. Catchment and riverine protection, water harvesting structures because we're working with smallholder vulnerable farmers. We also look at what we call early warning systems, carbon credit programs, and youth in tea. We also, as a specific objective, we are looking at promotion of climate change mitigation. To maximize tea production, we are looking at establishment of tree nurseries in schools, other centers. We are working with other like-minded organizations, and part of the reason why we are here is to also seek out for partnership within the government, within bilateral donors and the like. So we are open to business. We are also doing national partnership on tree planting, promotion of use of solar energy, because then energy is part of what we require both at the factory level and for the farmers. We also promote renewable energy and also waste management. On development of wood fuel plantation, overall, we require biomass to drive our business. And on that, we also need to have a sustainable. Sorry?
Jonathan.
Jonathan?
Hello?
Yes, Jan.
No, he's not with me.
So, can you hear me, Jan? Jan,
Sorry.
you're speaking?
Go ahead, George.
So, thank you. So on wood fuel, we need to sustain our factories and we require biomass. On this, we have a program where factories are buying land and setting up their own wood fuel estate. To date, we have planted about 16,000 acres with about 9.6 million trees planted out there across our tree growing landscape, out of which we have 30% that is segregated for indigenous for conservation protection. Next, please. Well, we got a program called ACHA, which is empowering rural communities and households in Kenya with renewable energy. It's good to mention that farmers as well require wood fuel for their household use. So this program is a program that was funded by IKEA Foundation from the Netherlands and the RA, this Rainforest Alliance. The budget is about 15.2 million. It was spread across for 18 months, but because of COVID, it was again extended for another 12 months. What are the objectives of this? We are looking at lowering deforestation rates and also effects of a greenhouse gas emission. And there are two specific goals we are looking at. We are looking at the farmers, where we are saying we need to reduce the amount of firewood used by household in tea production landscape, and focusing on issues around biomass, solar, and improved energy-saving cook stoves within our environment. So far, where are we with this? We have so far done 119 trees. This project began in 2019, 2020. We've done 119 trees that have been planted by the smallholder or farmers and their neighboring communities. 12 tree nurseries have been developed, each with over 300,000 trees across to be planted between April and May. And on the factories, because also factories require biomass, our target is to reduce the amount of firewood consumed in the factories by supporting alternative energy sources. And in this case, we are looking at industrial briquettes. Where are we? There's a great opportunity for the briquette in this country, and that is really an area that we really need to explore more as a country. Great opportunity. So far, in the current financial year, we're talking about 2021, we've spent about 1 million kilograms of briquettes. We've supplemented this with the firewood, and this means that we have saved about 1,666 cubic meters of wood, translated about 6,000, about 5,000 trees that has been saved. And this is something that we are rolling on and continuing. Other than that, we're also doing, what are the other outgoing campaigns? We also have what we call Tree for Schools. And overall, we are talking about, the aim is to conserve environment by planting over 1 million trees across our tree growing catchment. And now, like other members have said, we want to expand this not only within the tree growing catchment, but other areas where there's need and there's space. The impact so far, we have 16 nurseries, each with 285 seedlings planted between March March and May 2021, and 146 trees planted under TOH is Taylor of Harrogate. These are our buyers in the UK. KTD and Tist, we know Tist are also passionate about trees. This is what we call collaboration. And in March, by March, April 2020, we did about 146. We also cognizant of the fact that because of food security, we're also looking at fruit trees where we're doing mangoes, avocados, pawpaw, and white support. About 12,600 have been planted by the farmers. Other than that, we're also exploring the need for clean and affordable energy solution for the farmers. So other than just biomass, we are piloting biogas project funded by, currently we're doing a project with the Mitsubishi Corporate Fund, Europe and Africa, MCFAE, through RA, where what are we doing? We are looking at the project aims to provide alternative means to power, cooking, lighting, and basic farm production by turning farm waste into clean and affordable resource and biogas. So I think for me, this is an opportunity for us to ventilate on these matters as a country. So then this is not really restricted to tree growing area, but across the country as well. Next, I think I'm almost done. Next, please. Yeah, this is part of the shot. We have tree for schools. This is Adopt a Tree initiative. Next, please. Next, kindly. Yes, this is part of the nursery we have. These are grafted avocado tree seedlings within our nurseries, and we give this to the farmers. And of course, this is a picture of a rocket stove where these are energy saving stoves that we advocate for our farmers. Thank you, and over to you, Jonathan.
Thank you so much, John. Quite informative work. Just to inform this webinar participants that we were expecting a farmer who is working with Better Grow Forestry to join us. When I was introducing Ian, he was not with us, but he has joined us. His name is Simon Muli, although on my screen he appears like John Jenga. Simon, would you like to talk to us for about 2 minutes on your experience working with Better Grow Forestry?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Simon Muli from Kitui County, Omoni Sub-County. I have ventured into planting trees through the initiative of Better Grow Forestry. What they normally do is to give us seedlings. They have company officials who come and guide us on how to plant and how to take care. So it is an initiative that is bringing benefits to the farmers, because as I speak now, we have 6,800 farmers who have joined this program. So what we normally have is we are given the trees, we take to our farms, company officials come and educate us on how to plant and how to take care. The company has also initiated, or it has invested in a microfinance institution that gives small loans to farmers. And the loans that we get from the bank is used to do fencing in our farms. So what I can say is that the initiative has helped us, and we are helping save or restore the landscape. Thank you.
Simon, so thank you so much, Simon. So when you're writing your questions, if you have questions directed to Simon, can we write as well to him? I would like now to turn it over to Zanel. Again, take only one question per panelist. So one question for Simon, one question for Michael, one question for George, kindly.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. So I'll start with Michael's question. Michael, Peter Nduati wants to know what are the measures that Safaricom has put in place to ensure the high survival rate of the planted seedlings in the gazetted forest? Michael? Okay, I'll just move on. Jan, we have a question for you. What exactly in Kenya does Better Grow Forestry work in? Please kindly.
Is it what or where?
What exactly?
Okay.
Yes.
What? We're planting trees.
Okay, and let me just take a question for all the panelists. Any of you can answer this one. Why are you focusing entirely on planting and growing indigenous trees and not mixing them up with exotic species, which will help to address the ever-increasing demand for wood or timber products in Kenya?
Zanel, can I go first?
Yes, please, George.
Thanks, Zanel. I think that's a great question. I must admit that following our presentations, for us as KTDA, we are doing what we call mixed kind of forestry. We are doing indigenous for conservation, we are doing exotic for biofuel, and we are doing fruit trees. So really, it's not biased in terms of species. Thank you.
Jan, maybe we can answer that. Let's just hear from Jan shortly.
It is related to the market and it is related to profitability. You have to focus on a species and you have to invest money and time in marketing what you're going to produce. If you want to produce timber and you want to sell this in an export market, and our export market would be Western Europe, this already costs money. If you want now to do a second product like gum arabic, or anything else, then you're going to divide your focus and you're going to have a problem with your resources. It is not easy to get your market and you have to fight for it. It is not only about the planting and the production of the raw material, there must be a return.
Thank you very much, Jan. And still on that, the question, sorry, there's a correction, is where exactly? Maybe you can briefly answer that. Where exactly does Better Globe Forestry work?
For our work with farmers, it is in the Seven Forks area, which is the area around the Tana River where most of the dams are situated. And this is a part of Machakos County, the south of Embu County, and the northeast of Kitui County.
Thank you very much. Jonathan, I think I'll take only those questions for now.
Thank you so much, Zanel and the panelists. I would like to move quickly into the next session, which is talking about some of the ways in which we are turning around approaches that make degrade the environment. And today we shall be focusing on agrochemicals. In the conference, we shall focus on more greening approaches. But for today, we want to talk about agrochemicals. And we shall have a presentation from Dr. Dora Kilaro from the University of Nairobi, followed quickly by Mr. Michael Gigi from Agrochemical Association of Kenya. We do not have much time, so I'll quickly usher in Daktari to take it away from here. Dr. Kilaro.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you for the presentations that have gone before me. They are very good. Today, I want to look at pesticide use, which has impact in the environment. It has both positive and negative. Next, knowing that Kenya is basically an agricultural country, we rely a lot on things that are grown within the farms and agriculture in general for us to make food. But as we rely on that, they are affected by pests, and hence we have to utilize pesticides in one way or the other to be able to make the food that we utilize and also protect the environment at the same time. Next. So really, why we have to use the pesticides, mainly it's for crop protection purposes, because there are a lot in the tropics. We have a lot of weeds, we have a lot of insects, we have a lot of fungi. We cannot name them, but we have to find a way of surviving, because even with this moment when we have a lot of pesticides being used, 40% of food is still lost. So we have to find a way of managing both the pesticides and we have to find a way of managing pesticides so that we can be able to protect and get food, as well as be able to protect the environment. Apart from that, production costs have to be, we reduce them. We also have to find a way of penetrating the international market, because with the ISPMs, that is the International Sanitary and Phytosanitary Measures, we've got to reduce risks for us to be able to export. Is it our mangoes, which are fruit flies? Is it our avocados and all those? So for us to be able to penetrate those markets, we have to use pesticides so that at least we are able to sell. And then we also have to prevent diseases, mosquito control, flies, and all that. We've got to protect. We have to protect those animals. We have to protect even ourselves. But in doing so, we also have to look at how best can we then protect the environment as we use the pesticides. Go ahead. So if we look at that, although it is an old figure, herbicides are the main ones that are used even now, apart from insecticides, which are coming second, and fungicides. Herbicides, and that's why I'm talking of reducing cost of production, particularly for the large-scale farmers, and even as we work with the small-scale farmers, as we introduce herbicides, we are seeing that they are able to save a lot of manual labor. They are able to overcome drudgery, and at the end, be able to get good yields. So herbicides, here we are looking at the glyphosates and many others. These are the products that are coming into the market, and they are causing a lot of concern. But we have to find a way of using them well within the environment to prevent degradation. Let's continue. So in general, as we look at how we are using these pesticides, I'm trying to present, I've presented a diagram there showing how when we are utilizing these pesticides, unintentionally, because when we are using the pesticides, it's not that it is intentional that we want to poison or to pollute, but unintentionally, some of these things happen. So because some of those products are volatile, during the spraying, in as much as we recommend that they should be sprayed when there is the least wind that is blowing, there's still some spray drift. And again, when they land, there is erosion. And when the erosion takes place, the water takes those particular active ingredients into the groundwater surface. The wastewater, again, which is used for cleaning those materials after the spraying has been done, that wastewater, if it is not disposed well, it might find itself in the groundwater surface. When the spraying has been done with precipitation, again, those active ingredients, some of them may find themselves in the groundwater surface. So, and even as the winds blow, while a farmer may have been spraying in a different section of the land, 2 kilometers away or even 3 kilometers away, or next to just bordering the fence, maybe a school or even a hospital may find some of those droplets of chemicals in them. But these things must be controlled, and the pesticide industry, as my colleague will be talking about, they're trying their best to produce formulations that would not cause a lot of pollution in the environment, because these are things that are being raised, and people have concerns. Even for food safety, people have concerns, and they are looking at that, and we will be seeing how best we can go about it.
2 minutes, okay. 2 minutes.
Okay, so all these things will find themselves in air, in soil, in water, and in food. Let's continue. There are risks now to both indoor and outdoor, depending on what we are using. Let's continue. And especially outdoor, as they find themselves as the active ingredients find themselves in the groundwater or in the lakes and all that, there's a possibility of quite an amount of biodiversity being affected. The bees, we have been talking about them, fish, algae in water and all that. But what actions can we take? We can take action at the local or stroke community level. We can take action at the national level and international level. I may not emphasize on national and international levels because these are policies that have already been put in place. We only need to follow them. We need to obey and precisely do that which we are advised. So at the international level, knowing that pesticides are poisonous, then they have conventions that control the manufacture all the way to the distribution. At the national level, as the government adopts those international levels, many have, and if, in fact, Kenya, we have the best regulatory policies and laws concerning pesticide use in Kenya. So, but at the local community, that's where we have problem because with the many pesticides that we have, farmers are doing, they are misusing the chemicals. Let's continue. So how best, they should use pesticides only when the benefits outweigh the risks. And sometimes this calendar approach is what is causing a lot of trouble because then too much active ingredient is poured in the environment and we are not able to control that pollution. So that is why I'm talking of avoiding cosmetic or scheduled use of pesticides in the homes, in the fields, or even in vector control. Let us use the pesticides only when it is necessary. Then we are recommending the use of pesticides used with other means of control. And restoration, then we can improve the habitat, which can prevent, or rather, which can cause the insects, or even the, yes, mainly the insects, from finding what they were supposed to be getting. Like now what Jan is doing, while intercropping food with plants, that habitat change would cause the insects not to find, like the fall armyworm, not to find the maize or the sorghum, or if it is the pod borers, not to find the cowpeas. So integrated pest management is critical. So if, the pesticides have their labels, so we should follow label instructions. And also we should be able to educate the farmers on responsible, safe use. Whoever will want to use, whether it is herbicides or anything, they must follow, they must safely use those pesticides to protect themselves, to protect others, to protect all the non-targets that are within the environment.
We ran out of time, Dr. Ari.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think the others is just a summary of some of the stuff.
Yeah, it was a summary of that.
Thank you so much. So we'll usher in quickly the next presenter. That is Mr. Benson Gige from the Agricultural Association of Kenya. It's quite related, so it will just be connected. Benson.
Thank you. Maybe we can move to the next slide so that I can give it the next one. Yeah, so the Agrochemicals Association of Kenya is the umbrella organization for manufacturers, formulators, repackers, importers, and distributors of pest control products in the country. We are also affiliated to CropLife International, which is a global association of the manufacturers and the players in the plant science industry. Next slide, please. And at CropLife, we, as Dr. Ari has probably alluded to, we would like to maximize the benefits from pest control products while minimizing the risks that may arise from them. So we adopt a life cycle approach whereby the stewardship of these products or the responsible handling of them is done from the manufacturing stage all the way to storage and transportation, integration of IPM, how they are applied, and any waste that may emanate from these pesticides. So when they come into the country, we'll try and look at the entry areas and take the appropriate measures to ensure that we get the maximum benefits while minimizing the risks to our environment, including our lands. Next slide, please. So there are a couple of interventions that we undertake at AAK to minimize the risk to our environment. You'll see that there's a lot of or progressive diversification into the arid lands. Case in point would be Galana, Kulalu, Baringo areas. There's some expansion. Lower Nyanza, there's also expansion into irrigated agriculture. And so we train young fellows who are known as spray service providers. And this enables the responsibility of pesticide application to be taken away from the farmer and to be handled by a professional who can be able to take the requisite considerations and reduce drift and make appropriate choice of products. So this is one of the interventions that is aimed at reducing the amount of pesticides that are ending up into our land or into our environment. Next slide, please. We'll also notice that empty pesticide containers also pose a risk to the environment. If you look at the disposal methods by most of our farmers, they'll mostly throw them out there into the farm, which poses a risk to the flora and fauna in our lands. So by having the empty pesticide container management program, we are able to aggregate the empty pesticide containers and dispose of them through incineration, which is the globally accepted best practice. And this reduces the footprint of the pesticides in the soil, and it is also a step in the right direction. Another intervention is the securing of obsolete. Next slide, please. You'll find that due to poor stock management practices and also through regulations which render some of the products that are already in the country as obsolete, we are able to take stock of the obsoletes that are in our country, either through expiry or through regulation, collect them from the several places they have been and dispose them properly. In around 2014, from 2008 to 2015, we were able to undertake a Clean Farms program, which is continuous up to this point. And the main aim is to rid the environment. You'll find that some of the organizations will have what are known as land dumps, where they'll go and dump the pesticides that they are no longer using. And this is a very bad practice. So apart from education, we also take the physical responsibility and collect them from the farmers or from the end users and dispose them accordingly. Next slide, please. Yeah, so basically those are some of the interventions, and in the event that there are poisoning cases, we also run a toll-free line. You can see the numbers, the two numbers there. The toll-free line is available 24 hours. So in the event that there's any disposal that was inappropriate, or in the event of poisoning cases, we have a toll-free line that offers emergency assistance as the person who is affected heads to the nearest medical facility. So those are some of the interventions we are taking to ensure that we have sustainable land use and securing of our environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Benson, and thank you for keeping time. I just want to follow with a comment by Erin Widner. It is so difficult to restore land when the soil keeps getting destroyed by herbicides, to pesticides, to fungicides. When that basic trophic level is eliminated, everything else serves and yields fall. So it's just appreciating that work is being done to ensure that we are not having chemicals flying all around, and we are able to at least avoid that degradation chemical approach. So we are totally running out of time. We have only 3 minutes. I will let Zanel just take in 2 or 3 questions, then I come and finish. Zanel.
Thank you, Jonathan. I have a question for Dr. Kilalo. Dr. Tari, they want to find out, do you think there is a way of making a more diverse community web so that pests are controlled naturally by predators? Sorry. Dr. Kilalo?
Yes. There is a recommendation of doing regional identifying. First of all, it's important to assess what is there in the region. And in assessing what is in the region, it is even much better to manage pests, whether they are weeds or whether they are insects or whether they are fungi regionally. It's much easier because then all the farmers will be controlling or will be managing the same way, other than everybody doing their own thing, and it is not possible. So even as the university with the government in another task force, we are looking at how we can start developing areas of low preference pest preference, so that we can cover, if we went to a county like Kirinyaga, how best can we be able to manage pests around Mwea area or around a particular sub-county where we are looking at all the farmers, and we declare that place area of low preference so that they can even assess markets. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daktari. One last question, Jonathan. We have a question for the farmer, Simon Muli. Please kindly answer this one. Are the farmers taught methods to preserve water and increase biodiversity on the land?
Checking whether I can see him.
If he's still around.
Yes, he's
around.
But
in any case, yes, in any case, Jonathan, please go ahead.
It looks like he's not concentrating, but he's still on the call. But we have run out of time. We have only 1 minute. This is quite a rich, discussion that has been going on. The sessions are quite rich. We had to try to see how to minimize this, because a lot of issues were being raised that were regarding private sector, and we had just to select a snippet of what can be done. But during the conference, we are going to use all the discussions that have come up to raise the agenda for the conference. So even if your issue has not been handled on the chat or as the answers to the question, we are going to carry these on to the conference even as we're building the agenda. So we would like to invite you. We've now agreed on the conference being the second week of the week of the 12th of July. So it is possible for us to have a long 3-hour session for private sector engagement, and we shall build onto this. So it is not possible to take in more discussion at this point. We have recorded this webinar. We have taken in all the questions. I should be able to answer them where they have not been answered. We'll get back to you, but reach out to us on emails through Zanel's email. I'm sure she gave you the email at the invitation. And if you have any question you'd like us to address before that, we'll be able to do that. If you have anything you'd like us to address during the conference, also kindly raise that up so that we can take in all these suggestions as we build up the agenda. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming into the webinar. We appreciate so much. We had over 120 participants, and we have seen that almost everyone has stayed all the way to the end, and we do not take this for granted. On behalf of all the presenters, the Regreening Africa Project, the European Union, C4, World Vision, World Agroforestry, Safaricom, Seedballs Kenya, Better Group, KTDA, Agrochemical Association of Kenya, University of Nairobi, we want to really appreciate you for participating. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.